All right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. NorCal Sports Network. Ned Colletti should be joining us shortly. A little delay probably happening. He was in teaching class tonight, so might have had something come up, but should be joining us shortly. Before we get into tonight's show, we want to thank our sponsor, Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, licensed in all of California. Give Chapman Law Group a call for all your legal needs. Maybe you got a personal injury situation. You got in a little fender bender recently, or you got a family member or friend, that got in a fender bender. Give Chapman Law Group a call. Let them help you out. The cost for the consultation is nothing. So give them a call, 415-613-9483. Let us know NorCal Sports Network sent you. All right, guys. Also, we're brought to you by Better, BETR, the official daily fantasy sponsor of NorCal Sports Network. Download the app on your iPhone or your Android. Better, BETR. Download it now and put in the promo code NCSN. Boom. NCSN. And you get a deposit match up to $250 plus a free pick. A lot of fun. All right, guys. Thank you very much for that. And we will be getting right to it. Let me get the band off here. There we go. And let's see. I just got a text here back from Ned. Oh, not allowing him in. Let me see what's going on. Let me try and send him a link again. Something went haywire here. So hold on one sec, guys. He's trying to get in, and somehow the link did not work. So come on, StreamYard, hurry up. Taking forever to open up. All right. Invite guest. Copy. Hold on here. One sec, guys. One sec while we do this little homework here. One second. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, so Ned should be here. He was trying to get in. We had a little technical difficulties on that, and he should be coming right in. Guys, we got a lot to think about and talk about with baseball happening, and baseball has arrived. Spring training, one of my favorite times of the year. Just the weather down here in Arizona is amazing, and you get 75-degree weather days, and you get this glove, the sound of the ball popping in the glove, and the cut grass, the smell of the grass. It's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, that is a lot of fun right now. I was out at the ballpark yesterday. For those who didn't see a little bit of last night's show, I'll show you a little bit of highlights. We had the young Bryce Eldridge take his first swings of the batting practice, and he faced a lefty, his first at bat. I want you to take a look at this swing with Bryce Eldridge as he gets a fastball in on the hands, and watch him turn on it right here. Whoa. Pulled it on the lefty. So great bat speed by Bryce Eldridge. And all right, we welcome in the man, the legend himself, Ned. How are you, Ned? Oh, he's frozen. Oh, there we go. Got no sound. Let me unmute your mic. I think your mic is muted. Let me see if I can check your mic. Something's muted there.
Hey.
There we go. There we go. How you doing?
Okay. Sorry I'm late. School class ran a little late tonight.
I figured maybe you got a student come in, talk to you afterwards. I know how that goes. I was always coming up to the professor. Hey, could you help me out on this? I didn't understand. But yeah, hey, we were just chatting about the sounds of spring, the gloves popping, the bats cracking, and the smell of the fresh cut grass and 75-degree weather here in Arizona. It is something. I was just showing the Giants' young phenom, as they may call him. Some are calling him Bryce Eldridge. I don't think he's going to start the season, but I was out at the park yesterday, and he got into the cage. First pitch he saw, and it was a fastball from a lefty. So they put a lefty on him, and it was kind of interesting. Look at how quick his swing is. For a 6'7" guy, he's got a compact swing, which is amazing. He pulls the ball right down the line. Watch this. Whoa. Pulled it on the lefty. Yeah, that was just his approach. He's not – this kid can hit. His biggest issue is going to be, can he, play in the field? What's your take on that, Ned, as a GM, if a guy's ready to hit, but he's really not ready to play in the field? What do you do with something like that?
I don't know that you can play somebody that can't play defense. So,
do you DH a young 20-year-old, or do you think he's better to play in the field?
And I'm not talking about him specifically, but player can't play defense. You're going to have to DH him, or you can't play him.
Right. But is it bad to for a 20-year-old, 21-year-old to not be playing in the field just as a DH? Can that take them mentally out of a game when they're used to playing?
Well, it depends on the individual, but irregardless of that, I mean, you got to be able to play defense, man. You can't be giving up runs. You can't be making your pitchers get 4 outs 2 or 3 times a game. You got to be able to play defense. And until you can play defense, I don't care how well you can hit. You're going to have to be the DH or come off the bench and hit. But the ball will find you defensively if you can't play it.
Yeah, we saw that in the World Series last year, didn't we? Game 5.
Yeah, we actually did for a while. Yep.
Yeah. I've got a question for you out of the gate here from a listener. I don't know if he's in the chat right now. He may be. I haven't seen him, but he texted this to me today. This is from Aaron. And Aaron asked, I'm just going to read it. Ned, while a GM, president of baseball ops, is first and foremost always accountable to ownership in terms of the team's plan, philosophy, how much of that should be communicated to the fans so the fans have some idea what to expect and aren't left guessing?
Well, in general, I think you owe it to the fan base. I don't think you owe them your deepest thoughts or your trade targets or who's available on your club, because that's privileged. But to be able to explain to a fan base what your thoughts are, what you're trying to accomplish, if you're in a rebuild and hey, we're going to be patient, or if you're going to try to compete and what you've done this offseason exhibits that, yeah, you should convey that. I mean, they deserve that. They don't, I don't know that I would ever tell them who I was going to trade or who I was trying to sign or things like that, because you don't control that. You control how you feel and how you set forth what your expectations are. And, that's great communication. But
so basic philosophy is okay, though. Like, hey, like you mentioned, rebuild, because a lot of us Giants fans really are kind of confused what the plan is, because there's a lot of talk of playing younger guys in certain positions and young pitching. And then they go out and they basically sign Verlander, a 42-year-old, which I'm okay with, because I think he helps with the younger guys and really mentor some of these guys, not just for this year, but probably into what they'll learn will take with them, But they went and signed Willie Adames right before the winter meetings. They re-signed Matt Chapman last year, and then they just kind of stopped. And that there's this message of, we're trying to compete in some ways, but yet they say we're going to play the young guys. It just doesn't seem like they're either going all in or in a rebuild. It doesn't feel like a rebuild. So it's kind of a confusing message. At least to me, it feels that way. Maybe, and I've heard that from others, but I think in light of Aaron's question, is it better to just come out and say, hey, we're going to try and compete, but it might take a while. We're just,
I don't think you sign Chapman and Adames to not try to win. I mean, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to break their young players in, which is good. And they're trying to support them with veterans around them, which is good.
right.
And we don't know everything. We never know everything. We don't know who they tried to acquire via trade or who they tried to sign. We don't know any of that. We know what they have. And, in some people's mind, it's enough, or it's not good enough, or it's confusing messaging. But you don't have a chance just to go pick out who you want and they're all going to show up. That's not how it goes. So I think it's a good plan. You got some veterans on the left side of the infield that can play, can hit in the middle of your lineup, or at least 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. You got two guys like that, and you've got other players, but you need to get younger, and you need to probably really build your pitching staff around your youth. And so it's kind of in the middle. And is that bad? Well, would people rather have it's a strict rebuild, and whether or not we have a third baseman or a shortstop ready to play, it doesn't matter. We're going to play a player there anyway, even if we don't think they can play. That make people feel better. I don't think that makes people feel better. And if you're saying, well, we're going to compete with the Dodgers, we expect to win 100 games like them. Well, that's not accurate either. So the truth is that they've added veterans that can hit in the middle of the lineup. They've got good young pitching that's still on the way, still trying to get established, and they're going to try and give young guys a chance. You've got to give your young players an opportunity, but you can't also put them in a situation where it's going to be just an abject failure all the time because you don't have anybody around them. So they put some good players around them, and they'll probably try to put more around them.
Now, in a situation like last year, they ended up, Joey Bart was out of options, and they weren't going to carry him on the roster, and yet other teams knew the Giants weren't going to keep him, so they weren't going to offer anything more than a bag of chips, really, because the Giants were going to unload him. And so they put him on waivers. Pirates claimed him. They worked out a trade, and that's that. Now, this year, there's 3 other players, young players in the Giants organization, Marco Luciano, Casey Schmidt, and Luis Matos, 3 highly thought-out prospects, both Luciano Matos, in the international signing, and they were their top guys, and then Casey Schmidt, a second-round pick. They have one option left. So they're in the same situation a year from now that Joey Bart was in. What do you do in that situation? Is that something, because if you don't play them, you're basically their value shot if you don't play them, right? If they don't get a chance to see what they can do on the field this year and they're out of options next year, then it's like either, I guess next year that if they peak and maybe they make the team and they start producing, then kind of like Ramos, then that can work out in your favor. But that's a really a rough place to be to put your team in, I would think, to have so many
Well,
guys.
you're 14 months away from having to make that decision.
True.
A lot can happen. At this time last year, did you think Ramos would be as good as he was?
If you're asking me personally,
Well,
I
I mean, did you
believe
have
that,
any indication that this kid was going to really blossom?
if I said I thought he'd have the year he had, I'd be lying, but I did see potential in him. I really did. I
Well, you
saw
probably see potential in those other three guys too.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really
Okay,
do.
well, things can change, and
Yeah.
you have to give your players opportunity and give them a chance to succeed. Decision making. Everybody likes to make decisions before they need to make a decision too. Not everybody, many people. I don't see it that way. Their decision on those three players, you say they all have one option left, correct? Or
Correct.
Luciano's out.
No, Luciano, they all have one. This is their
Okay.
last option. Yeah.
So you got to wait till about 2 days, 3 days before opening day of 2026 to make that decision.
Yeah, that's true, because
I
they
don't
can
know
still
that I'd
make.
be making it in mid-February, a year and a half to go. I think it's just how it goes. And sometimes it takes players longer to develop. And we don't know all the conversations that they have or all the instruction they take or really what the inner circle thinks or what the player in the inner circle, how they think. And sometimes, 2 or 3 of those kids may end up being like Ramos. They may
Yeah,
figure it out.
true.
And
Yep.
hey, you got all that time. And you really have more than that time. You really have they can make the club as extra players next year and see how they adapt through that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the players like the team they're with. And the
Right.
Giants know who these players are. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. They know what they need to shore up and get better. And I'm sure that they'll spend this next 14 months working on those skills and making sure that they get when you come to that decision that you know as much as you can possibly know before you just put somebody out there that you're not going to get anything back for, especially if they're as highly touted as you lay out there by people on the outside or people on the outside and the inside.
Right. I was out at the ballpark yesterday, and I observed. I look at a lot of different things when I'm observing. I'm not just looking at guys hitting. I'm watching how guys are interacting in their groups, and there you see the outfielders, the infielders, the pitchers, and I'm watching the interactions. And I was out there the year before. I've been out there the last few years. I noticed something different a little bit yesterday, and it struck me that the team seemed more cohesive, a little bit more loose, like they were enjoying each other, and from previous years. And what I'm wondering, you and Brian Sabian took over in the offseason of 96. You inherited a 94 loss team. You probably made several changes, some trades and different things, and you won, I believe, 92 games, something like that in 97 to win the division. It obviously took talent and you guys had some great talent there. I mean, you had Bonds, and then you got Jeff Kent, and built around that, and you added Burks and JT Snow and all those guys. But can a guy like Buster and Bob Melvin working together with a different philosophy and attitude, can that have a bigger impact than many people are looking at? Because everybody's looking at the Giants as a fourth place team, and I kind of think they're kind of be there too, but I also see some sides where they could surprise.
Well, I think you're going to have a different approach. You got a different philosophy. That's just how things go when there's changes at the top. And you've got a first-year general manager, but you've also got the president of baseball ops, but you've also got an accomplished player. You've got a Hall of Fame player who competed like crazy every day. So, it's not that Farhan didn't compete. He did. I've known Farhan, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years. And, I mean, he was trying to do the best he could. So, but every time you have change, it does lighten people up a bit. But, it's a long season, a lot of trial and error. A lot of things are going to be challenged. That's how it goes. A lot of things with LA are going to be challenged, even though people got them pegged in to win the World Series or get close to it, which the way they put together, tough to argue with.
Right.
But I think you see a different change, and how long you sustain it is a key. And you've got a very accomplished manager. You've got a general manager, a president that was very accomplished as a player, and has got his heart and his head in the right place to really try and change the culture and really bring the organization back and make it more of a destination. I've said it before. I'm not sure it's a big destination right now. I don't think there's a sports franchise in LA, or not in LA, but a sports franchise in North America that's as prevalent and as more of a destination than the Dodgers are.
Right.
What the NL West will compete against.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you follow Zips at all? Have you followed that in your
No.
Okay. Zips is a analytical type thing, and they put out the projections for 25.
Oh,
And this is
win projections?
Zips is, yeah, it's kind of a weighted thing, and it's playoff percentages and all this. They've got the Dodgers, 92.7% playoff. I'd put it closer to 99, but that's how they project the National League West and their track record over the since they've been doing this, they have averaged 19.2 teams they get correct out of the 30. So that's a pretty, they're getting 2/3 right.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. I mean, baseball has a funny way of things changing from year to year, but I would put this division. I mean, I have the Dodgers projected a little over 100 wins, but I could see where they dial it back. And I think this team is built more for October. I don't think the Dodgers are so much concerned about blowing away any records of beating Seattle's 116. I think their role is, let's get into the playoffs healthy and we'll do our work there. I mean, they have a great advantage in the fact that if they can, win the division, they could set up their rotation. Last year was pretty amazing if you look at it. They won the World Series with 3 starting pitchers, which is pretty crazy. Now they've added, they've got Sasaki and Ohtani coming back and Blake Snell. I mean, that's like 3 Cy Young Award type pitchers that you just added in the offseason. It's ridiculous. But I could see a world where they may need all those pitchers because they do have that history of injury. Glasnow and Gonsolin and May and even Sasaki. The word is that in Japan they thought he might need Tommy John and that someday he might. And so at some point, but the Dodgers have the luxury of slow pitching. Not slow pitching, but pacing these guys. They don't have to, get these guys to go 6-7 innings a start. And where do you see this Dodger pitching staff? You've been around the game a long, long time. I can remember the 69 Orioles or 420 game winners? You had the 90s Braves that had some great rotations. Where do you stack this Dodger rotation up against all-time pitching staffs?
Well, there's some questions to all time. At this point in time, I don't know that anybody is deeper or better than they are for this particular season at this particular time of the spring. I think that they've realized one of their few weaknesses after last season and really have addressed it and given themselves, as you point out appropriately, they've given themselves a lot of leeway with their depth, not to rush anybody and not to extend anybody for that extra inning, 3 or 4 times a month. let them pitch maybe a little bit less, so that when you get to October, they're a little bit fresher than the teams that have battled to get in there. So,
You're good.
that's how they do it. I don't know that, I think it's premature to say they're going to be like the 420-game winners in Baltimore, or 3 Hall of Famers in Atlanta, and Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox. We don't know that quite yet. Are they capable of that? Yeah, they are. But until they play the games, you don't really know what you're going to see. You can project, and I think the 97 wins for them is low. I don't know how.
Yeah, they're pretty conservative, on the top end, and so I think their over/unders 103.5. I got them going just a little bit over that. Yeah, I think I could see them winning around 108, 106, 108. Just kind of coast into the division. Although there is a world where, if things don't go perfectly, some injuries happen to some key players, that I could see, and if Arizona overperforms and wins 100 games, I could see Arizona squeaking out a division by a game or two if things line up perfectly, kind of like 21 for the Giants and when they won 107 games. I don't think that happens. I think the Dodgers win the division comfortably by 10 plus, but there is a world where Arizona's pitching just takes off. Jordan Montgomery bounces back. You get, productive years out of Gallen and Kelly and Fott, and then you got, of course, Corbin Burns, and then you've got Rodriguez. They've got the Diamondbacks can actually go with a 6-man rotation as well. But I mean, there's no doubt that the Dodgers are the class of this division and of baseball. But I'm kind of thinking there's about 5 teams, to me right now, as I look at it, maybe 6, that could give the Dodgers a run for the money, whether it be, sometime in the playoffs. I like Atlanta coming back, being a better team. I like what the Mets are doing. I like, Philadelphia is always good. The Cubs, they had a chance to even get better by signing Bregman, but they didn't. And so I'm not sure if they're there. Arizona, and then in the American League, I really like what the Yankees kind of did in the offseason, but Stanton's already hurt now he's got tendonitis in both elbows, hasn't picked up a bat in 3 weeks. That's not a good sign at 35. And then I like what Boston's doing. Boston has added Alex Bregman, and they've got some tools. So it should be fun. I mean, this is a great time of year where everybody, is in first place, tied, at least for a weekend. But it's such an interesting thing to me, Ned, when it comes to what's happened in the offseason. And I don't blame the Dodgers or their owners one bit, that they're working within the rules, and they want to win, and they went out and signed the guys they wanted. But there is a lot of people talking that after the 26th season, the collective bargaining agreement runs out, and some people are saying there may be a lockout because some owners are going to want a salary cap. I think you can't have a cap without a floor, but where do you see that? Is that something that, as a executive, that you look out in advance, or you just don't even worry about that and you just say, hey, my focus is on this year's team, I'm not even thinking about that? Or do you have to think about that in terms of people when you sign longer term deals?
Well, if there's the language in the contract is, if the game doesn't get played, people aren't getting paid. So you don't need to really put that into the equation.
Okay.
I think you bring up a handful of points there. I don't think as a GM you're worrying about the collective bargaining agreement. That's 2 seasons away.
Right.
I don't. It's going to be out of your control anyway. It's an ownership level and a union leadership level. Players, I don't think worry about it either. Players will start thinking about it at the end of 26, perhaps. Does there need to be change? I don't know. I think what the Dodgers have done is very smart, and I think in their case, most of the time, you'll hear fans complaining about ownership, don't want to win, don't want to spend the money, all those other types of topics. I think in LA, and you got 4 million fans, and you got fans all over the globe who follow the franchise and love the franchise. And I believe that ownership is more hungry than the fans. I don't know that you have that anyplace else to that extent. Mark Walter, Stan Kasten, Todd Bowley, Magic, on and on. I mean, they want to win, and they've got a great front office there with Andrew and his group. So, they all believe in each other, and that they do what they do and how they do it. Other teams can do that too. This is not a sport that is that has teams probably worth less than $1 billion at this point.
Mm-hmm.
How deep into the $1 billion is obviously different markets, different prices. But everybody has done well. So are you gonna shut the game down because one organization is clever or open to deferrals and things like that allows them to do different things? I don't know if you shut the game down. Right now you got two teams in the American League playing in minor league ballparks for at least a year. In Tampa.
Probably, yeah, Tampa, 3 years, and the A's, yeah.
Yeah, so, do you have other issues than the Dodgers deciding to spend the money that they've spent on the players they've done it and structuring them the contracts the way that they have? You're going to change creativity? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you do that. Is it quote fair that you have a maybe $300 million differentiation between those spending the most and those spending the least? Yeah, that's not good for the game. But how do we know how people are spending their money or what they're willing to do?
Is there a way that you could maybe make it where teams have to spend so much of their revenue, within a 5% gap? So, because John Lund of KMBR, former KMBR, he put out a tweet today, and this is rather alarming because, you can't expect the Giants to spend the same money the Dodgers do. The revenue's different, but the percentage, he says, for once, Boris is right, because Scott Boras was calling out Major League Baseball owners as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. faces free agency after turning down an offer from the Blue Jays. It's not small market, large market. It's how much of your revenues are you spending on a 40-man roster to show your fans you're committed. And John says, for once, Boris is right. The Giants spend 49.1% of $443 million revenue on payroll. Dodgers spend 71.5% of $549 million revenue on payroll. LA has more, obviously, but percentage spent is apples and shows commitment to win. Giants want to market Oracle Park, turn the turnstiles, and sell loaded garlic fries, $20 cans of Bud Light, and bring back former players for nostalgic celebrations. Only 5 more years for the 20-year 2010 celebration. If they wanted to win, they would have called Boris today and offered Vladdy contract. Blue Jays wouldn't. They didn't. When is Lincecum Buster no-hitter bobblehead day? Can't wait. Okay. So this is kind of a sarcastic shot at Giants ownership from former KMBR radio personality John Lund. And I agree. I think the Giants had an opportunity to spend more money. You can't expect them to spend $300 million, but if the Dodgers are spending 71% of their money on payroll, why can't the Giants spend close to that? Why can't the Royals do that? Why can't the Pirates do that? Why can't all these teams spend that money if they're committed to winning?
Well, that's an interesting social media post about the percentages. I hadn't seen that before. You know, I'll assume that it's accurate on both the percentage of what they pay and also the percentage of what their revenue is. Let's say it's accurate. But again, I don't think he was accurate on Scott Boras and Vladdy. I mean, did Vladdy become a free agent today? I missed that if that happened.
No,
You
I
know,
think I don't know how
I think he's just being facetious that he
yeah,
would have jumped on that. But Toronto's got a market too. One of the biggest, most wealthiest franchises in the sport. They can't just trade Vladdy today because they are going to have to negotiate with him throughout the course of the year, at the end of the year, I should say. But it's always easier to speculate and tell people what they should have done when you don't necessarily know what they tried to do. Okay.
true.
I'm going to continue to say this. The Dodgers are a destination. They give out a big signing bonus, they defer a lot, and then they pay a certain amount during the term of the contract. That's how they've decided to do it. They're going to have a big bill coming up in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, whatever. They're prepared for that. Okay. But in all due respect, unless Buster Posey and the Giants ownership give the media and the public, these are who we tried to sign. This is what we offered. This is where they went. Unless somebody can prove that, who knows what they tried to do? I find it really hard to believe. And I can understand the frustration, but I still find it really hard to believe that Buster Posey and his group and Bob Melvin and his group are okay winning 77 games.
Right.
I don't think they're okay winning
No.
77 games. I think they're doing what they can to get as good as they can, knowing you just can't buy your way out of it. You're going to have to draft, sign, and develop. And they're trying to do that, especially with their pitching. So, it's easy to say what people don't do. But you know what? It doesn't have as much credibility to me, maybe because of the jobs I've had and the positions I've been in reading stuff that was of the same nature. I don't know what they're trying to do, but if I would be shocked to find out Buster Posey will be happy winning 75 games.
Right.
That's who he is at this stage of his career. In our heart of hearts, I'd like to win 70, maybe win 70, 71. I don't think that's who he is. I don't think anybody who watched him play would say that's who he is. So
Correct.
Is his expectations higher? Absolutely. But again, you can only what do you have control over? I would bet anybody that the Giants were in on more players this offseason than the shortstop they signed.
Yeah, I would say they were.
So you're going to blame Buster Posey for not signing more players when he controls one aspect of it? You know how many aspects there are?
Oh, several. Yeah,
There's the other player,
the player,
there's
the agent, the wife.
family, there's
Yeah.
the agent, there's tax situations, there's all sorts of different things that come into play. So to get on somebody for what they didn't do, not knowing what they tried to do in an earnest way, that's just wasting space.
Yeah. Now you mentioned destination place. We got a question here by Cole. It says, "Hey Ned, question for you. What would other teams do to make their teams a destination? Like the Giants, for example, besides spending money, of course."
You know what? I don't think spending money. I think spending money is down the list. I think you have to win. You have to win, and you have to have a chance. And then you're going to have a chance in a negotiation to maybe spend a little bit more than somebody else, but at least you're on the same destination path. I have no idea what people would have paid for Chapman had he been a free agent, or if the Giants overpaid for Adamas. I don't know. I don't know what all the offers would have been. They signed them fairly early, and a lot of people thought both players signed for more than they would have gotten elsewhere. You have to win. You have to win, and you have to have that type of spirit to you. Go back to, and you brought up the 96 Giants. I was part of the 95 and 96 team and saw us struggling, and Brian took over, and he moved up from to the second spot to the first spot. I moved up from the third spot to the second spot in the winter of 96 to 97. And we made some drastic changes. JT Snow being one of them, Jeff Kent being one of them, Vizcaino, Darrell Hamilton, God bless him. We started to do it in a different way. Okay. And it clicked. And we became a bit of a destination. And I think when you think that, when you think about how winning teams get to be winning teams, part of it's destination. People want to play there. But when you look at the 3 World Series championships in San Francisco, how many of those players were drafted, signed, and developed by the organization?
Quite
A huge amount. Probably, and this is just off the top of my head, if you took those teams and you took the average of, homegrown versus free agent or trade, and you matched them up against the 24 Dodgers who won the World Series, I bet you would find more at-bats, more innings pitched by homegrown Giants in any one of those 3 years than by the Dodgers. Okay?
true.
Go around.
Yeah.
Posey,
Lincecum,
Phelps,
Kane,
Crawford, Pablo, Lincecum, Kane, Madison,
Madbum.
Brian
Yep.
Wilson, Romo. I mean, we're going off the top of our head. The
Yeah.
Dodgers don't
Panic.
have that many players
Yeah.
that were developed from within the organization. But you know what? And they have a good farm system, and they trade some prospects for accomplished players, but they are a destination. If you're a free agent player, I mean, Vlad a year from now, you don't think when he and Scott sit down to talk about where we're going to go next season, that the Dodgers aren't going to be the first team out of his head? In a minute.
Right.
They're going to pay you well. You have to defer some, but how much do you need today? You're going to get a signing bonus. You're going to defer money, and you're going to have a chance to win a World Series, probably during the term of your contract. It's a destination. The biggest thing for the Giants right now, to me, is they've got to become a destination again.
So winning
In the
takes
meantime, though, they've got to draft well and develop that young pitching staff. They've got some talent. What are they going to do with it? How are they going to develop it? Danny, are you going to get impatient because some kid's sitting at AAA and he can't quite get anybody out at the big leagues? Get rid of him. How many options does he have left? None of this stuff is easy.
right.
But you gotta make a commitment to do a couple things at a time, including draft, sign, and develop. And
Now you
and get
mentioned
your team built like that, and then add to it.
you mentioned destination. In your years with the Giants, without naming if it happened at all, did you ever hear from an agent or a player, I don't want to play at Candlestick? It's too windy.
Well, I was
too
at
cold.
Candlestick for I think 5-6 years, and at Pac Bell then, and then
Yeah.
the original name for about the same amount of time as I was at Candlestick.
Right.
Candlestick was tough. It was tough, and I'm not sure how many free agents we signed there, except a year or two before I got there, Peter McGowan and Larry Bear signed a pretty big one.
Yeah.
To play
Very.
left field. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a different dynamic because of his dad and San Francisco and all of that. But I think you have to develop no matter where you're at. unless you're the Dodgers, where you do develop, and you've also got the ownership that is gonna just spend and wants to win desperately. And I don't think, I know a lot of the Giants ownership. I think I don't know as many as I did 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but I find it hard to believe that they like seeing empty seats and they like seeing the Dodgers, take control of a division early and never have a chance. I don't think that's how they're built either. I really don't. And people can look at, all the revenues and the percentages and all of that. And I got one more comment about that too. But before I get to that, yeah, I know enough about them to know how bad they want to win and how much they want to compete. And I spent 15 minutes in a conversation with Buster Posey the weekend that Mike Murphy was inducted into the Giants Wall of Fame, but I watched him play and I watched him compete. I don't need conversation to know that this guy wants it and is willing to do whatever he needs to do to get there. It's a simple equation, but I'll tell you one, and the thing I was going to make a comment on is it's almost smart ownership to kind of watch what you spend if you can't get players, if you're not the destination right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because let's say that they sign a guy that can hit 25 home runs and drive in 90. Okay? And that cost them $30 million more a year. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that percentage that was on that post goes up. But let's say that the Dodgers are the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks are the Diamondbacks, and San Diego figures it out with their ownership upheaval.
Right.
And you're still the fourth best team in the division. But now you might compete with San Diego. So now you might win, and we'll go back to your Zips analogy. I'm top of my head, I think the Giants had 77 wins.
Right, 77
on Zips. Okay, so you add somebody for $30 million. And then everybody's happy about it. And now you win 85 or you win 83. You're 20 games out and you spent another 30 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make people happy? The worst place to be is always in the middle.
Exactly.
So, and that's why, when I interviewed in Baltimore years ago and they said, this is where our payroll's going. And Mike Elias has done a real good job there. This is where their payroll was going. As much as it turned me off from doing it because I didn't want to, I didn't know what the commitment was really going to be. It's smarter in their case to spend 60 or 70 million back in the day instead of 120. What's 120 going to get you with the Yankees and the Red Sox in their heyday in Tampa as well as they play at what they spend? What's 140 going to get you versus 60? Yeah, 15 more wins. What does that mean? You're going to be 500 or maybe a couple games over? No, you know what Mike Elias did? He took the low payroll and then he drafted and developed.
Right.
And there they are. One of the best teams in the game. And how many players do they have that are free agents? Not too many.
Correct. Santander was really their first that kind of left them.
Yeah, and Corbin. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was a trade acquisition.
True.
That
right.
was there for a year.
But they've got all those young guys. Right. Right.
That's the formula. That's the formula.
The thing about that, Ned, to me is you get this situation you described, and the Giants were kind of in a situation like that where Pete Alonso was sitting out there, and he's kind of that guy that you described that, maybe give you 25, 30 plus homers, 90 to 100 RBIs, maybe brings your win total up to, 83 to 85. Maybe you just fall a little short. Maybe you make it. But I think the question is when you're a franchise that has really not made the playoffs but once since 2017 season. That's 8. Now, let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4. 7 out of 8 seasons where you basically were either 500 or under. And then you have this opportunity. And you're in a market that is one of the better markets. You have this opportunity to go out and get a guy and maybe get yourself to be a winning team and maybe start that destination. It seems like a real fine line to try and navigate. Which way do you go? Because I see what you're saying. I could see like, hey, we're not ready to compete. No sense spending that extra money. And let's build the young guys. Let's draft, develop, and get these young guys. And on the other hand, you got a fan base that's just saying, hey, we want to see the playoffs. That's a tough place to be.
No doubt. No doubt. It's a very tough place to be. But you have to commit to the plan. Look, I work with the San Jose Sharks. And we've had a couple really tough years. But you know what? We had to commit. Mike Greer's done a phenomenal job. He committed, as painful as it is, to get beat for a couple of years, 2-3 years. You're going to get beat.
I love that philosophy,
but you're going to get Macklin Celebrini. You're going to get Will Smith. You're going to get these other young players. You're going to make a deal and get Askarov. That's what you're going to have to do. Otherwise, you're just chasing your tail all the time.
Yes. And, yes. That's been kind of my thing, Ned, with the Giants over the last few years is, look, pick a lane. We've talked about it on the show before, is, the 22, 23, and 24 seasons was the time for the Giants to start trying to develop some of these younger guys. And they really didn't. And I don't know if it's because they didn't have them. Possible. They just weren't ready. And that was the cards they were dealt. The players just didn't develop or whatever. But the fact is they kind of went for it. They went and tried to sign the free agents, the Solairs and some of the other names that they're escaping me right now, but they went out and signed several guys and it just didn't work out. And then, they went after the big pitchers and the Rodons and they had a chance to trade him at the deadline, but Farhan calculated that they thought they could still make a run in the second half. And I didn't think it was the right move. I said so at the time. I said, I don't think you're going to make the playoffs. Go ahead and sell off some of these guys that are free agents. See what you can get. Maybe you can get a decent prospect. Maybe the Yankees would bite on a star pitcher like Rodon when he was pitching great during the I want to say that was the 22 season, but they didn't do that. I think you've mentioned you've got to know your players. You got to know where you're at, because if you can't make that run and you make the decision to go for it and you fail to get into the playoffs, you've now just lost the player to free agency and you didn't get really the value you could have got. Yes, you get a compensation pick and that could turn out to be somebody that makes it. Yes, I get it. But at the time, it seems to me, I see a lot of teams, I saw the Padres do it with, or not the Padres, but the Nationals with Soto. They made the decision, and look at the haul they got: C.J. Abrams, James Woods, Mackenzie Gore, Robert Hassel III. I mean, they got a load of players, and I think Toronto might be looking at that possibly with Guerrero at this point, whether you make that move now or you try and make a run for the playoffs. But how do you juggle that? Is it a decision that is, how do I say this? Like tantalizing, just keeping you up at night when the trade deadline comes? Like, I mean, I got to imagine it's tough because you want to win and get in the playoffs, but you're also thinking about the future, and the decision you make could set you back a couple of years.
Well, you know, we're it's like, do we know everybody Buster Posey called to try and sign as a free agent? No, we don't. We don't know what the offers were.
Right.
We
You
don't know what was turned down.
True.
And you know what? And you make the decision that you're going to try to win. Look at Anaheim with Ohtani.
Yeah.
Probably, far greater just on paper haul than Rodon.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But what's out there? Every general manager, it's their job to do due diligence and know what they can do. What are the options? And if you believe in the leadership of your club, then you got to believe that the decision made, sell, keep, whatever, is based on a lot of information that people are not privy to. So you think Farhan liked losing his job with the Giants? I don't think he liked losing his job. I think that he loved doing it, which he should. It's a great organization, great place. One of the all-time best. And but you have to, part of the, and here I am, in this role with you, like pseudo media, after spending, almost 50 seasons in high-level professional sports positions. And what I really know, Dan, unequivocally, what I really know is unless you're in that room, you don't know. You don't know. We try to say we're going to take a stand and this is how it is and they should have did this and they should, but we don't know. We have no idea what the Giants were offered or what Anaheim was offered back in Shohei's walk year. We don't know. And we don't know what ownership said. That, you know what? We need to compete right now. We need to win as many games as we can. Look at what Anaheim did. They didn't trade Ohtani. They added players. And and gave it a 2 or 3 week run. Tough to do that. It's like going to Vegas.
Right.
Trying to buy a mansion by putting a bunch of chips on one roulette number. But we don't know. And yeah, it keeps podcasts going and it keeps talk radio going by believing that we do know and this is what they should have done. But the truth of the matter is we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
And if the offers are terrible, you don't want to make that move if it's a bad offer.
How about the Lakers just acquiring a player that they did from Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know that much about the NBA. I know the uproar. I know the celebration in one city and the uproar in the other. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know how good Dallas is or how their general manager or ownership works. But what I do know is that they knew more about the deal than I do. And time will tell why they did what they did. I have no idea. All I know is that I go into everything thinking that who's ever in the decision-making part of the business, including ownership, has a desire to win and has people that they have hired that are qualified and fierce and due diligence oriented to make decisions that they make on either side of it.
Yeah, it really is. Right. It really is pretty crazy to me that you look at sports in general, Ned, and you mentioned hockey and NBA and NFL and Major League Baseball, whatever it is. You've got millions and millions of GMs out there and, in the fan base. And now you've got, the podcasts that we have on YouTube and hundreds of people making comments and everybody says this and that. You're right. We don't know. But what do you, as a general manager, I guess you just tune yourself out to that. I mean, I would imagine everybody's human. I'm sure some people listen to it, the noise, but it's pretty crazy when you think about all the things that everybody says, oh, they should have done this. They should have drafted this guy. This guy was available. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you make this trade? Why, it's on and on and on and on. I mean, even I do this for, this podcast, and even I get tired of talking about it at times because it just goes on and on and on. And it's just verbiage. There's the 98% of the stuff we say is never going to happen.
Exactly right.
But there's people out there I see trades put out there. Oh, this is going to, and it's just kind of the nature of sports. But you're right. It is something that, we never know. But sometimes we do get different things that get put out there, like so-and-so was offered for so-and-so and it was turned down. How does that stuff get out when there is a deal that was, supposedly on the table? How does that information get put out? Is that through agents?
Could be.
Yeah.
Hard to tell. Again,
Wow.
We don't know.
Right. It is just a lot of, I think that's probably what makes American sports, though, is fans conjecturing what they think should happen.
Without a doubt.
I'm looking in here. I've got people in here that are saying things that I've said, trade Webb. He's going to die on the vine here in San Francisco. By the time they're ready to compete, he's going to be much older. Get something for him while you can. There's other things, why do we have Yaz? I'm sure at the Dodgers, it's like, why did they sign so-and-so? Why didn't they go after this guy instead of this guy? It's just on and on. The Dodgers are loaded, and I'm sure there's some fans out there that are critical that they didn't go out and get Santander. They got Conforto. Why didn't we get Santander? He hit 44 homers. Conforto only hit 20. We have the money. We should have paid him. It's just, it's like you can never satisfy fully everybody. So in the end, it's what happens between the lines. The players make the decision. It's the players that win the games, and they have to perform. And as a GM or Pobo, you can make all the great moves, and you can look great on paper, and it can all fail. And you can make a Matt Williams for Jeff Kent trade and get called stupid, an idiot, and it turns out like you look like the smartest guy in baseball. That's just the nature of this.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And it's great to talk about, but it's also, if you're asking me questions, I'm not gonna tell you I'm not gonna make stuff up.
Right.
I just have respect for people that do what they do, and I think that when you watch them, how they compete. I would challenge anybody on your network here to tell me Buster Posey doesn't want to compete. Huh. I don't think anybody, even though those who are the most agitated, would say Buster Posey doesn't care about winning. I don't think anybody could ever say that. And
yeah.
Again, we don't know. We don't know what they've tried to do.
Right. And then people get upset. There's a lot of a different, talk out there. I guess what happens in sports sometimes it really does just come down to winning and losing, right? At the end, managers get fired because they didn't win. GMs get fired because they didn't win. They get extensions, managers, because they did win. Same with GM. It's just, I read today or heard today or yesterday, the A's extended Mark Kotsay for 3 years, I believe. They played over 500 ball at the end of last year, 39-37, their last 76 games or whatever it was. So, he got an extension. They're committed to that. Speaking of extensions, is that a tough situation? Say it's a lame duck year. Is that a tough situation for you as the general manager? Is your job to, hire him or fire him, keep him employed? What do you? I mean, is that just based on how things go? And what do you do in a situation like that when it's the last year? What are you looking for in a situation?
So if he's on the last year and you don't want him to be, quote, the lame duck, so you sign him for one more year, and then a year later you're faced with the same dilemma. So you just keep signing the person for one more year, one more year, one more year, one more year, until you're either so good that they leave, or you got to give them 3 or 4, or they're so bad you're firing them in the middle of the season. I don't believe in the lame duck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in it, especially this time of year. You got 6, 7 months to go, and you're going to tell me, well, people aren't going to listen to you because you may not be here. What does that say? That tells me that that you're afraid they're not going to listen to you no matter what.
Right.
People have to have confidence in their abilities.
Right. How much
You don't want me? You know what? You're going to make me a lame duck? Okay, watch. We're going to win 15 more games than you think we are. And you know what? I may or may not come back when it's my choice. What's wrong with that? Is that bad?
Yeah. How much does a manager in baseball affect the win-loss record? Would you say many? Is there
Sure, Zips or somebody could tell you.
Yeah.
It's a guess.
Yeah. Wow. So I don't know if we've talked since, but the Hall of Fame, we had Ichiro go in, CC Sabathia. Was there a third player that went in?
Wagner.
Oh, that's right, Billy Wagner. So we got those 3. What was somebody fell just short, like 2-3%. Can't remember who it was. But what's your take on those 3? Obviously, Ichiro should have been unanimous, but
they
great
all
player.
deserve it.
Yeah,
I think they all deserve it. I think it was the right thing to do.
Do you have any take on? I mean, you were right in the thick of the game with the Giants when Bonds was breaking records and everything. Do you have any take on guys that didn't get in that were accused of the steroids? I
think Barry should be in. I think Clemens should be in.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know everything.
Right.
If people can, and I have to get going here by 11 o'clock. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. But, no worries.
Can somebody tell me that everybody in the Hall of Fame, none of them ever did a steroid? Can you tell me that? Can you also tell me that nobody ever did an amphetamine, which are also outlawed when steroids are outlawed?
Right.
Anybody tell me that everybody in there never did any of that stuff? You tell me that, I'm cool with Beast being out and Clemens out and other guys being out. I'm cool. All right, I'll buy that. But until you can tell me that there's not somebody in there that got away with it, or it was overlooked, or took amphetamines or whatever,
right?
Absolutely.
Come on. Absolutely.
We're picking and choosing who's in it.
Yeah. Greenies. Yeah, absolutely. One last question, and we'll let you go. We'll close it out. This is something that I have thought about. The perfect game that was not Andres Galarraga of the Detroit Tigers. The umpire, I'm trying to remember his name. It's just escaping me. But, knew he made a mistake. And now with replay intact, and the 28th batter he got out. So there was no impact like, oh, do you think baseball would be a humanitarian thing to do to ease what that umpire has to have lived with the rest? Jim Joyce, that's his name, Jim Joyce, and give Galarraga, where clearly he was out, replay shows it, we have replay in the game today, or is that opening Pandora's box?
You know what? I feel bad for the pitcher. I feel bad for the umpire. Are you going to stop there?
Yeah. It
You
just
make one
seems like
exception.
just seemed like it would have been a really cool thing to do for both the player and the
But
umpire.
that's, we could. There's probably nothing more pronounced than that one, but if you look back at the history of it, it's part of sport.
Yeah.
How many
All
times
right.
was a guy fouled in the NBA or
Yeah.
not called, and it cost somebody a championship or a scoring record or on and on? I mean, it's part of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Ned. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Sorry, I
on.
was late there. Couldn't get in.
No
All right.
worries. No worries. We'll see you next time as the season gets a little closer. We'll have you back on and we'll do some predictions for the season.
All right, buddy.
All right. Take care, Ned.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
Right. All right, everybody. Thanks for being part of NorCal Sports Network. Make sure you check out Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of NorCal Sports Network, right up here in the app or in the upper right-hand corner. Download the app, Better, on your phone, and put in the promo code NCSN for a chance to get a $250 match plus a free pick. It's awesome. We play it. It's fun. So make sure you do that. Again, thanks to Ned Colletti for coming on here. He was teaching tonight. I know it's 11 o'clock in California. He's tired, and I'm tired. It's midnight here in Arizona. So we appreciate you being part of NorCal Sports Network. We'll be back tomorrow night. Our show tomorrow night, you're not going to want to miss that. Bora and I and Ned will, not Ned, Lou Marston, myself, and Bora will be on tomorrow night. We're going to do bold predictions for the San Francisco Giants 2025 season. Bold predictions with several players in mind. So you're going to want to be here. That'll be at 7:45, our regular time, 7:45 California, Pacific Standard Time tomorrow night. All right, guys. Thanks for being part of the show. We will catch you tomorrow night, 7:45. Also, got a video coming out on the National League West tomorrow, about 11 o'clock in the morning. So check that video out. Recorded it today, National League West Division. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. All right, I screwed up again. I see somebody said they couldn't hear me. My mic was muted. I apologize once again. Boy, what a mess. Anyway, don't care. Thank you so much again. You said, thank you, Ned, for setting the foundation for the Dodgers golden era with your picks of Kershaw, Seager, Bellinger, trading for Manny Wood, etc. Really appreciate that. I will text that message to Ned personally, so he has that message, and he will appreciate that. And MM Forever says, in my opinion, worst thing the Giants did was not keeping Jeff Kent. I agree, and letting him go to the Dodgers. But thanks again. Don't care. Really appreciate you. And sorry, I did not get to that when Ned was on. That is my fault. I usually get those right away. So I will definitely make sure I get those the next time. Thanks again, everybody. We really do appreciate your support. And now we will close out the media here. Let's get the music back up here. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll let the music finish us on out. Thank you.